Good morning. Good morning. So glad that you are all here today. Um, and welcome to our Indigenous Peoples Day observation or observance. It's my honor and pleasure to welcome you here today to Westford's second annual Indigenous Peoples Day observance. This observance, like others that have taken place and will take place in Westford, give expression to the desire we in Westford have to learn from our shared history, to celebrate our diversity, and to find strengths in the values that we share. I'm Joe Diamond, co-chair of the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee in Westford. Events like this involve a team of supporters and planners and day of event volunteers, many of whom are here from the community and from the DEI committee. I want to take a moment to thank you all for being here and helping us set this up. And I'm going to call out a few people. Let's see. Kate Kelly is here, I think. Lisa Kilpatrick is here. Harshita is here. And then a few others from our committee have helped to set up. So we want to thank you for that. I'd like to thank my co-chair, Anjali Rajput, for her leadership, and Wendy Gloyd, co-vice chair, for organizing the program and reaching out to all of its participants we look forward to hearing from soon. I'd also like to thank Linda Green, Westford Museum Director, for her help and support, and we'll hear from Linda a little bit later. I also want to express our gratitude to the Select Board and to the School Committee for their support and partnership. We also appreciate the leadership and guidance provided to us by the current liaisons from those committees, Noelle Donovan from the Select Board. Noelle, thank you, and Valerie Young from the School Committee, thank you. Since the DEI Committee was appointed in August 2020 by the Select Board and the School Committee as a response in part to local and national intolerance, racial violence, and hate crimes, and as a part of a national reckoning, the Westford DEI Committee has worked to carry out its charge, which reads in part, the committee will identify needs around fostering acceptance and valuing diversity and discourage prejudice and discrimination against any person, group, or any other status protected by law on account of race, creed, color, income, religion, national origin, ancestry, gender, sexual orientation, veteran status, age, or disability. The DEI committee is made up of a diverse group of residents from a variety of backgrounds, cultures, and faiths who share a love of Westford and a deep commitment to building on its character as a welcoming community that embraces diversity. The committee brings information to the community and celebrates the various cultures, nationalities, and traditions that flourish here, including Italian American heritage, which is celebrated here and across the country this month. We do this in part through our multicultural calendar and resource page at the DEI section of the town's website. Today's event is also inspired by the DEI Committee's vision for Westford, which builds on its character. Our vision for Westford is a town that embraces, celebrates, and draws strength from our growing diversity, is an engaged and inclusive community boasting a town government whose practices and actions display a consistent commitment to equity, and is known by current and future generations as a welcoming place that fosters an abiding sense of belonging. Recognition of Indigenous Peoples Day across the state and the country stems from the growing understanding that Indigenous people suffered for centuries in this country, and that understanding their history and embracing their culture is an important step toward overall reckoning in this country, state, are engaged in. Before every meeting of the DEI committee, we offer a land acknowledgement, which I will read. We want to acknowledge that we gather in Westford on the traditional lands of the Nipmuc people, past and present, and honor with gratitude the land itself and the people that stewarded it throughout the generations. Now it is my pleasure, and again, welcome all of you, to ask Linda Green, the Westford Museum Director, to join us. Linda has deep experience with leading local museums and with museum programming, having served in Boston and Concord and Acton and Lexington. Am I right? Lexington too? Not Lexington. In various roles. We thank Linda and the museum for supporting this event. Linda has helped us manage resources to support today and to shape the program, and will partner with us as a community on a community reading on or near July 4th of Frederick Douglass's address, What to the Slave is the 4th of July. Linda, please join us.
Thank you. I'm honored to speak today on behalf of the Westford Historical Society and Museum, which co-sponsored this year's Indigenous Peoples Day with the Westford Diversity, Equality, and Inclusion Committee. Thank you very much. Our organizations are dedicated to preserving, learning about, and celebrating rich histories that make Westford special. These histories go back thousands of years and continues to shape our communities. In the Westford Historical Society's archives and the Westford Museum's collection, a story is told that began over 9,000 years ago, showcasing the strength and connection to the land and the first people of New England. As the glaciers melted, early people followed the great herds north. Over time, they adapted to the changing forests, rivers, and seasons, evolving from hunters and gatherers to include farmers that cultivated crops such as corn, beans, and squash. Ancestors of Nipmucs, Pawtuckets, also known as the Wamasets and the Soba tribes, had established rich cultures embodied by community, agriculture, and artistry. Much of what we have in the museum's collection comes from donations of Westford citizens, such as Martha Elizabeth Whitney, who in the late 1800s began collecting Native American artifacts primarily found in Westford. Other Westford residents, including Amos Pauley, Howard Smart, and Philip Day, later added their findings to the museum's collection, helping us to understand how Indigenous peoples shaped this land long before the colony settlers arrived. In 2004, archaeologist Marty Dudek examined the museum's artifacts and confirmed their long history, ranging from a 900-year-old arrowhead to pestles and pottery made just a few centuries ago. Each piece connects us to someone who walked our paths before us. However, these artifacts only tell part of the story. The legacy of the Nipmucs and the Pawtuckets and the Shoba people live on in the wisdom of their descendants. At the museum, we just serve as guardians of these important stories, ensuring that they remain alive for future generations. This year, thanks to our partnership with the DEI Committee, we also received and managed community donations that help make events like this possible. And your donations help us preserve history and provide programming and education for us all. I invite you to visit the museum's table after today's program, where we'll be showing several artifacts from our Indigenous collection. Please take a moment to view them closely and imagine the hands that made them, the families who used them, and the land that supported them. In the upcoming week, the Westford Museum will host a talk, Lost from the Ledgers, by the Westford Historical Society President, Leslie Howard, on Wednesday evening, November 22nd at 7 p.m. This talk will explore Westford's Indigenous past through local historical records, including stories of the Massachusetts and Penobscot people, their experience as praying Indians, and the impact of the King Philip's War. Every artifact, every story, every person here today is part of Westford's evolving history. This history grows stronger when we listen, learn, and give back. On behalf of the Westford Historical Society, I'd like to thank you. And together with the DEI Committee and many of our community partners, we honor the first people of this land today and every day.
How's everybody doing today? On this quiet Saturday, as it were. I'm so grateful to be here with you all here in Westford. I want to take this time to thank all the staff and folks here in Westford. There's quite a list. So if you have that pamphlet, so I don't want to forget anybody, so I'm just going to say I really appreciate all the folks who made this possible as we're going into a new stage, as it were, of this acknowledgement, of this support. And I believe this is just the beginning for the town of Westford, Massachusetts, as we look forward to supporting this kind of work going into the future. And so y'all remember this day, this nice, comfy crowd. And next year we'll probably have this whole place filled up, and for that type of support and acknowledgement that this kind of work deserves. So first thing I'd like to do is offer a blessing on this day, Indigenous Peoples Day, that we have come to know it as. And it's also, as we continue to reflect on Indigenous Peoples Day, how it started, what it's taking place of, and I won't say because you all know. And that started somewhere a few hundred miles, maybe a couple thousand miles south in the Caribbean islands, when a man landed there and got lost and encountered a group of indigenous people known as the Taino or Arawak. And that's where that story begins. And so I want to reflect on that for a moment. Then, of course, some other folks, they weren't lost, but they were looking for some freedom that they didn't want to share. And they were known as the Pilgrims. And that's kind of where our story kind of begins. But it also began a little bit before that, in the 1500s. But that's a lot of the history, but we're also concerned about the present, about how, as it was pointed out, the first people of this land are still here. That is us, the Nipmuc people. And so with that, I'll offer the words in the first language of this land. And we say, Wun nasha na tumo manatu, tabatni, watu chikinnisin, okumis, tabatni wuchi sabalsu, wasukati e huanat, notas ninawa manantiyon, king nuta yu pantaminot, and the mayo ninawa me quantam kichiot. Ka mata wananta, ka naguti e kokutam ninawan, manatu, wasukati e huanat, wamanititiyo. Ka noso kumuso amoke, ninaho kinkantu chokesicho. Nyayo. Tabatni manatu niwachi, all of you here today. I greet you in the words of peace and reciprocity in the Nipmuc language. And I ask that, I think now more than ever that we need unity, we need love, more love into the world, and more acknowledgement of those who have never had a voice, a chance to speak and share. The Nipmuc homeland was once a vast area comprising almost 2/3 of Massachusetts, or roughly 4,000 square miles in this state alone, comprising 5 rivers from the Gulf, from Long Island Sound to the Gulf of Maine. And the Merrimack River, which we're not too far from, was one of our waterways. Through colonization, we suffered tremendous loss, reducing this massive homeland to a mere 5 acres on what is now the Hassanamisco Reservation, where we all descend from today. So we are all eventually pushed to this small spot in what is now Grafton, Massachusetts. But we are still here, and our people go on. Despite all the loss, we have our drum, we have our language. And it wasn't because of, it was in spite of. But now we're here to tell and share the story, how this story of Indigenous people's survival and love of this land can be a model for all of us. Because it's not just the survival that we intimate, we also share that deep knowledge, like what things need to grow and what things need to be in space with. All that Indigenous knowledge is important for all of us today. When we think about diplomacy and sharing and equality, those are values that were here for thousands of years. And those are values that we still uphold and care about. And so these are the bases that we can all share in together. And so before I go any further, I'd like to share a couple songs. And so if I can get that mic stand up. I also like to add that also we have to update that bio there. We do a lot of work now in the North Shore, and so and I'm going to talk about that after the song a little bit. So this share a Nipmuc welcoming song here. This is my surfing hat. It really is. So I spend a lot of time in the water. And Nipmuc means people of the water, so it's very relevant to our way of life. Does anybody know what this sounds like? Yes, heartbeat. And so our teachings are that every living thing has a heartbeat. The two-legged, the four-legged, the wing, the grass below our feet. And you're probably saying, Larry, what do you mean a heartbeat? Well, it has a vibration. A stone, a tree, the wind. Because all a heartbeat is a vibration, right down to the molecular, on a molecular level, we are all interrelated. And in our language, we have a phrase, and in English it's translated to all my relations. It's a philosophy and value that we stand on. And it's not so mystic, because science has a word that is similar to that. It means the same thing. And they call it quantum physics. And so, now that science is finally catching up to what we've been talking about thousands of years ago, we can begin to see through a microscope and other means of technology that, hey, we are all connected, we are all related. You know, we can't affect one ecosystem without affecting the other. Thank you. As I mentioned, Okitail, we're doing more work now throughout the state, and just a little background about myself. As was mentioned, I spent the first part of my life in Springfield and then moved to Central Mass for quite a bit of some time on our tribal homelands, and now we're living in the North Shore. I have been doing this work my entire adult life. I've had the privilege of traveling the world, sharing my stories from Ecuador to Sweden and everywhere in between. I've had the gift of sharing the opportunity of this work from a voice of a people who have been dismissed for centuries. And interestingly enough, I share some good news with you all. To learn more about that part of my story, I was featured on a PBS Stories Up the Stage. Anybody familiar with that? And my episode just won the Signal Gold Award. So I'm really, thank you. just got the word last night. They said, Larry, your episode. So I said, oh, cool. All right. So it's pretty amazing that story that I shared resonated with so many people around the world. And so please check that out if you get a chance. I think they're sharing it throughout the month as well. And so my work as an artist, and then later on, I had the opportunity about 8 years ago to take my work and my experience to build our own organization, which is called the Okiteo Cultural Center. Pause for that. Okiteo is a Nipmuc word meaning a place to plant and grow. And the organization started about 8 years ago in the town of Ashfield with the support of my cousin here, Jasmine Goodspeed, who was also part of that endeavor when we began that project. And now we have a program manager over there, Reina Antonez, and our relative Strong Eagle, who's going to be sharing some flute later. And so through Okiteo, we are a multidisciplinary organization, culture, arts, education. Please make sure you get some information about what we're doing. And what's really wonderful about Okiteo, there's nothing like it in the state. We're all Indigenous run. We're our own 501, and we're able to lift up artists, their platform, their work throughout the state, and we partner with allies throughout doing amazing work. Partners such as the Boston Athletic Association, universities, Jacob's Pillow, and so we are really thrilled of all the different the Boston Science Museum, all the different people that we work with, Imagine Studios on the North Shore, and so. And when we do these collaborations, we're building up that awareness, and we're building up that sharing spirit, those values, and kind of what I was talking about earlier. And Okiteo, even though we've been around for 8 years, we feel like we're still just beginning our work because allies and friends are never, they can never be in short supply. So we're endeavoring to look for more folks who believe in our values and the mission that we work for. And so. Please make sure you check out some of the work there. And I actually have some of my books there available today, if you would like to check them out. And so on this Indigenous Peoples Day, there is so much approaches that we can take and think about in terms of support, action steps, and acknowledgments. And we talked a little bit about this land, Westford, Mass., the home of Nipmuc, Pawtucket, Wamisit people, the land of my ancestors. And to think about those artifacts that are over there, knowing somebody from my blood, my family, carved those and had a hand in that 5, 6, 7,000 years ago. And so we are essentially their voices that has been silenced for so long through our work. We give this land the authenticity and the authority, the work that we share and carry on. And so I hope that as we take this time, and again, I can't thank the Westford, Mass. Enough organizers and all the folks who are responsible for this, because we all know what the wave, and I use that metaphor because I'm a surfer, the wave that we're up against and the things that are going on. And despite that, folks are standing up with courage, with love, with dignity and honor, and the values that they believe is the right thing to do, and continue on this type of work to share. And so it's been really exciting. And as I said, I hope to see next year this place filled, because it's a gathering of love, it's a gathering of sharing, and that reciprocity that we continue on with. And I don't know how much time I have, but before I close, I want to share one more song. And then we'll do some other stuff later. We're going to have some other activities, and I also want to thank all the reps who are here from the state, government, or towns who are paying attention and acknowledging the presence of the first peoples of this land. And we know how important it is for someone to have a home. And we know right now people are desperately fleeing some countries and their different homes. And for the folks who have always been here, we say we understand that, and we acknowledge that. And so it's always good to have grace and understanding and compassion for people who are homeless and fleeing a hard situation. You look at the history of Indigenous peoples, I can't tell you how many times we've been removed or displaced throughout our own homelands. You know, the Trail of Tears is one of them. Bosque Redondo, the Navajo folks, the Nipmuc peoples, reduced, as I mentioned earlier, to 5 acres of land. And so we can acknowledge that, and we can repair that going forward. So I want to share. Thank you. Done? So that's about my time for now. I really thank you all for listening, and I'll be up a little bit later, and perhaps it's such a nice, small, comfy crowd. We might have some time for some questions as well. So thank you all for being here. Happy Indigenous Peoples Day.
First, Larry Spotted Crowman and Strong Eagle Day, thank you for the culture, for the true understanding of our heritage and helping us learn and grow here in Westford. It's something that I think very much of us, everybody here, is very proud of. To have you here today to start our second annual Indigenous Peoples Day observation. I also want to thank Westford Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee and the Westford Historical Society Museum for putting today's events together. It's my honor to be here, along with members of the Select Board and School Committee and residents of the community. Today we continue our collective dialogue about the history of Indigenous people here in Westford and across the Commonwealth. I'm looking forward today, as each and every day, to learning together about Indigenous Nipmuc Native history, identity, and living cultures. The Nipmuc, Pawtucket, and Neshoba peoples are the original stewards of this land here in our town of Westford. As residents, we should know about our town's Indigenous history and roots, especially, and it was mentioned earlier, in a time of, I would say, federal chaos, in a time where our identities across the Commonwealth and across the country are questioned. I'm proud to be here with everyone today. I'm proud to live in a community that is steadfast in their commitment to racial equity, education, and inclusion. I want to again thank the town of Westford for keeping inclusion and especially respect also in the forefront, reminding us in the month of October, we can honor Indigenous peoples, our first land stewards. And also, we can honor Italian Americans who, like so many immigrant communities, help build and shape our country as well. Our country's history is a rich tapestry, and access to the full spectrum of American history is essential to us. Again, thank you for coming together today to celebrate Indigenous Peoples Day here in Westford and the Commonwealth. I want to thank again the DEI Committee and Westford Historical Society for putting things together today. Thank you very much.
Good morning, everybody, and thank you for being here today. Thank you to the DEI Committee and everyone who volunteered their time to make this event possible. I appreciate you all for being here today to celebrate the Indigenous peoples of this beautiful land. The 7 generations of my family to be here is a mere blip in comparison to how many generations have come before us. During my research for speaking with you today, I came across a quote that I haven't been able to get out of my head. "The earth does not belong to us. We belong to the earth." The exact origin of this quote is unknown, but the sentiment of it is still held within the Indigenous peoples of this land. For thousands of years before the arrival of European settlers, the land we now call home was stewarded by Indigenous nations. These people, who spoke different languages, held unique customs, and developed intricate systems of governance, had a deep spiritual connection to the earth. They didn't simply live on the land, and they certainly did not feel that they owned it. They worked with it, respected it, and honored it in ways that allowed them to thrive while maintaining harmony with the natural world. Indigenous peoples understood that the land was not an infinite source to be exploited, but a living, breathing entity to be cared for. Their methods of agriculture, hunting, and gathering were not driven by the pursuit of profit or overproduction, but by a profound respect for the environment's delicate balance. They practiced crop rotation, controlled burns, and sustainable hunting practices, ensuring that the land could regenerate and continue to provide for future generations. The Indigenous peoples of this land understood that by taking care of nature, they were taking care of themselves and future generations to come. This relationship with the earth wasn't just practical, it was spiritual. Many Indigenous cultures viewed the land as sacred, believing that all things, plants, animals, water, and the very soil beneath their feet, held spirit and purpose. To them, every action taken in relation to the land, whether it was planting crops or hunting, was done with great reverence. It wasn't simply about surviving. It was about honoring the land that sustained them. When we think about the challenges we face today with climate change, environmental degradation, and loss of biodiversity, we can look at these traditions as models of sustainability. Indigenous knowledge systems offer invaluable lessons on how to live in balance within the natural world. We can learn from their holistic approaches, their emphasis on reciprocity, and their deep respect for the earth. Today, as we reflect on the legacy of Indigenous peoples, we also recognize the ongoing struggles they face. Struggles rooted in centuries of colonization and forced displacement from their sacred homes. But even as they have endured hardship, Indigenous communities continue to be resilient, advocating for the protection of their land, their cultures, their rights, and their water. As individuals within this community, it's our responsibility to recognize the historical and ongoing contributions of Indigenous peoples. It's essential that we listen, learn, and take steps to support Indigenous communities, to advocate for the preservation of their traditions, and to work towards a more equitable future for all. And in closing, let us remember that Indigenous peoples are not relics of the past. but vibrant communities with much to teach us about sustainability, respect, and stewardship of the earth. I encourage you all to take a moment to reflect, not just on the history of Indigenous peoples, but also on how we can honor their traditions and work together to protect this land for future generations. Thank you.
Thanks, Noelle. Thank you very much. I just want to reflect for a second on how each of the speakers so far is, the information provided is sort of additive. The insights build on each other. And it's sort of emblematic of how we ourselves here in Westford continue to look for more insights to kind of enhance our understanding, and in particular today, our understanding of Indigenous people and their important role here in Westford, in Massachusetts, and across the country. Speaking of education, I want to take a second to talk a little bit about our next speaker, who will also help us with MC duties. Harshita Krishnu Kumar is a member of the DEI committee. She is joined by Kate Kelly, both from Westford Academy. And the reason I mention that is that we are as committed to education. Today is an example of it. But we also know on the committee and DEI committee that diversity comes in many forms and has a broad definition. And that includes generational diversity. So we're really thrilled to have two members of the Westford Academy community on our committee. We're so happy that Harshita is here today to help us move this along and also to introduce our next speaker. And again, it has a lot to do in my mind with the overall impulse that we have to continue to learn. So Harshita, please join us.
I first wanted to thank you all for coming here today, and for Wendy for flawlessly planning out this event. I've only been in the DEI committee for a few months now, but the dedication and time commitment that everyone gives is truly admirable. At Westford Academy, our history curriculum is always growing and changing. Teachers are always open to new ideas and perspectives, which makes learning history even more meaningful. Mr. Martell is a teacher who truly embodies this approach. He was my history teacher my sophomore year, and he's here with us today. Mr. Martell is incredibly passionate about what he teaches. He makes every class engaging and interesting. While also focusing on historical events, he always encourages us to think about how history connects with what's happening in the world today. He also motivates his students to be involved in community, including attending town meetings. And that experience inspired me to join the DEI committee and become more engaged in our community. He spent a lot of time teaching us about Indigenous heritage, the challenges Indigenous communities have faced, and why history continues to matter today. We learned about different tribes, regions that they lived in, and even the languages that they spoke. He also brought a guest speaker, Noam Kasha Shaling, who shared his experiences and talked about Native Americans' life today. This experience helped us gain a deeper understanding of Indigenous culture and the importance of representing their history and voices. It's my pleasure to introduce Mr. Martell to the stage to say a few words. Please join me in welcome.
Harshita, thank you so much for that warm introduction. It means so much to hear and see about students that I've had before continuing to make a difference. So thank you very much. And thank all of you for having me today, and thank you for all being here. My name is Mike Martell, and I've been teaching history for over 20 years. 15 plus have been at Westford Academy. And I want to talk to you about something that's very important to me. The urgent need to incorporate Native American history into our school curriculum. It's not simply a matter of filling in historical gaps. It's about correcting centuries of omission, restoring truth, and honoring the voices and experiences of the Indigenous peoples whose land we now call home. I've been very lucky to have administrators and curriculum coordinators who support my incorporation of local Native American history into the culture, because it's not something that has its own unit or its own standards in the frameworks. With the help of the local historical society, I've been able to bring in many stories from the past for the students I have today. Before the first European settlers arrived, New England was not an empty wilderness. It was and still is the ancestral home of nations such as the Wampanoag, Narragansett, Mohegan, Pequot, Penobscot, Nipmuc, and many others. These communities had complex systems of governments, vibrant cultures, and sophisticated relationships with the land. Yet too often their stories are reduced to footnotes in textbooks, if mentioned at all. When students grow up learning that Native American history begins and ends with first European contact or Thanksgiving, they are being deprived of the full truth. Worse, we are teaching generations to view Native peoples as relics of the past, instead of as a living contemporary community who continue to contribute to culture, economy, and our environment. Incorporating Native American history, especially local Native American history, allows students to understand that the history of this region did not begin in 1620. It began thousands of years earlier by learning about the early diplomacy between tribes, the impact of colonization, King Philip's War, the forced removals, the survival and resilience of Native American communities today. Students gain a richer and more accurate understanding of all of our past. This is not just about history, it's about respect and it's about truth. I encourage everyone here today to advocate for inclusive curriculum that are developed with Native American communities to best educate our youth. We can push for teacher training that equips educators to handle these topics with accuracy and empathy. We can also support legislation that includes the teaching of Indigenous histories in public schools. By teaching the full story of New England, one that includes the first peoples of this land, we're not only educating minds, we're helping to heal wounds. We are building empathy, we're creating a generation that understands the importance of those before us and the history of the land where many of us now reside. Let us commit to telling the whole story, not just recent history, but the much older history, because the future of education depends on how honestly we are willing to confront the past. Thank you so much for having me today.
I don't know about the rest of you, but I have a vision when I'm thinking about an event and working on the planning, and when these events actually happen and they come to life, I fall more in love with the town, with the folks in the town. And a lot of people say to me, how do you have the energy to do all the things that you do, and what is your motivation? And really, it's all of you. It's folks that show up, who stand up for what is right, for standing up for each other, being there, for making space for students to come forward and lend their voices, which is so important to me as well, and learning about different cultures that are so important. So I would like to invite Larry back. He's going to introduce our Nipmuc artist, Strong Eagle Daily. And today's gathering includes not only words, but music. And that kind of speaks to the heart and spirit of what we're doing today. So, over to you. Thank you.
Kutabatamish. Can y'all say Kutabatamish? Never say a word you don't know what it means. I gotcha. Just kidding. It means thank you very much in the Nipmuc language. I'm just really excited to be here today, and thank you all for everything. And in terms of education, that is one of the aspects that Okiteo does, curriculum development. And one of the reasons why I got into writing was because I wanted to build a larger platform of voices, of people hearing the words and normalizing diversity in the schools, normalizing diversities within education. I found out many years ago that there are only 1% of books on the market for children's books that are for Native American centered. Then you have about 12 to 18% for Black Latino, and then there's about 35 or 40% for trucks and dinosaurs. Then the rest of the percent are white-centered books. So, and we know from science that children as young as 3 years old discern race, and we all love to say we don't see color, but it's scientifically proven. Children as early as 3 years old begin to have a discernment of color and making choices. And so my goal was, when I broke into children's literature, is to normalize this type of a philosophy of understanding, of normalizing different types of backgrounds and ethnicities and languages, so kids can develop that. So we're not growing up in a world where it's hard to believe somebody's speaking a different language, or somebody has different texture of hair or skin. And so if we can all understand that on the inside we're all the same, and normalize that at a young age, it can develop into some more fruitful relationships that we all love to share. And I have to mention, as Native people, we're always, as it was said, we are connected to the land. And I wanted to say, State Rep James Arcera, as you were speaking, there was a hawk circling you. And what that means to us is that the hawk has many symbols, including like a guardian, a protector, those who are connected to the land. And so that was really, I got goosebumps just talking about it. So it's, we never know why these things happen. And so that was a message for you, I believe, that, keep on doing what you're doing. It's, you have the blessings of the hawk there. So that was pretty incredible. We're all like, so I don't know if you saw it, but it was, yeah, it was quite incredible. He's long gone now. And so without further ado, I want to invite up my relative, Strong Eagle Daly, who, he's an amazing flute player, and he makes his own flutes, highly talented. He's been doing it all his adult life. Army veteran, Navy, or Air Force, I'm sorry, I'm the Army veteran. He's an Air Force veteran. And so, just a real quick little factoid, Native Americans serve in the military per racial capita more than any other ethnicity in the country. So Native Americans are joining the military more than any other racial per their population, which is about 2%. I'm a veteran. My two brothers are veterans. As I mentioned, Strong Eagle, he's a veteran. And this is a whole nother topic. We have ancestors who were in the Revolutionary War. We have over 66 relatives who fought in the Union Army in the Civil War, grandfathers. And so we're always excited to talk about the history of that, how we served in this country, always defending it. And so without further ado, I'm going to invite up Strong Eagle Daly to share the beautiful flute.
My name is Strong Eagle, Many Feathers Daly. My journey with the flute began in 1992 when I lived in Sedona, Arizona. Every day when I took my walk, there was a gentleman that would sit on the porch. And he always had something that he was carving. And little by little, each day I would go by and, get a little closer so I can see what he's doing. So finally I got up the courage after 3 weeks, and I walked over to this gentleman and said, may I ask what you're carving? He says, yes, I'm a flute maker. And I said, oh, wow, that's amazing. He says, yes, I'm from the Anishinaabe tribe up in Minnesota. And, sorry. And he's been making flutes for 40 years. So I asked him, I said, well, can I make a flute? And he looked at me and says, I don't know, can you? And I said, well, let me rephrase the question. Could you teach me how to make a flute? So he did. He came out, he went back into his home. So I waited on the porch, and 10 minutes went by, 20 minutes went by, half an hour went by. As I was getting ready to, I said, well, I guess I got to come back some other time. As I was getting ready to go, he comes out the door. He said, oh, you're still here. I said, yes, I am. I'm waiting for you to show me how to make a flute. And he said, oh, that's right. I took a little nap first before I said, thank you. That's okay. I understand. And from that moment, he taught me how to make flutes. And I met other flute makers and players that added to my knowledge of flute making. And it's interesting because I used to split the wood in half. 2 halves make a whole. So you would hollow out the mouthpiece and the the longer portion of the flute on two, and then you glue them together. And then you put in 6 holes on the top. 7, counting the mouthpiece, and then of course 8, where the breath of the flute goes into the main chamber. So I've been doing this for a long time. I just wanted to make flutes. I didn't think I was going to ever, perform or, play flutes. And then I heard a song of another flute player, and I thought that was the most amazing thing I've ever heard. And my journey with this flute has taught me quite a bit about being human. I served my country in the capacity which I served. I was honored to serve. And all the vets out there, I want to say thank you for protecting our country. And if it is all right with everyone here in this audience, at the end of this, I would like to play taps, because I'm not going to forget those who gave all. And I do this at every performance. My first song removes, and I like you to journey with me when I do this, because I remove my ego when I play. And whatever sources come in, that's what takes over. So I'm not doing this, I'm doing this for you. People feel different things when I play the flute. I have a special flute here that I play. It somehow moves women more than it does the males. But yeah, so I'm going to give that a try. So I'm going to pick up one of these flutes, and I hope you will journey with me as I play. Okay, well, how it goes is this. When a female eagle is ready to choose her mate, and of course they mate for life, she prepares herself. She cleans her feathers, preens, and looks to the sky to find out where the males are flying. She'll sit in that tree and watch each male. And then she'll pick one and fly with it. Now, what they do is they fly intricate patterns with each other. They even grasp talons and they begin to spin. Before they hit the earth, they split apart. Now, if the female eagle likes his flying, then the real test begins. The female eagle will go down to the ground and pick up a stick. She'll fly high in the sky and drop the stick. What the male has to do is to catch the stick before it hits the ground. So he may get the first one, the second one, the third one, and I must tell you that each time the female eagle goes down to pick up a stick, they become larger and larger, sometimes almost the size of a small log. If at any one time the male eagle does not catch one of the sticks, she flies off and says, "You're not what I'm looking for." So she'll find another male, does the same thing. She's looking for a male that will catch all of the sticks. And when she does, they mate for life. Now, when they are ready to have eaglets, and of course, eagles perch or make their nests high above mountains, tall trees where predators and humans cannot disturb them or bother them. Now, when they have some eaglets and they feed them and they care for them, and of course they're getting ready to fly, and with that they get on the edge of the nest and they start flapping their wings, and sometimes they push themselves off and try to fly. If the male eagle sees that he's in trouble, his job is to catch the eaglet before it hits the ground and brings him back to the nest. So I ask all the females out there, how well do you excuse me, how well do you challenge your males before you allow them into your life? And to the males, are you able to catch all the sticks for your mate and also your children? one of the amazing things I brought some accompaniment. So you can have accompaniment or without a live band behind you. So I picked out a few things to play for you with accompaniment like an orchestra. In just a second, I will play. Have you ever heard a story of the useless old man? It goes like this. There was a mother, a father, 2 children, and the grandfather lived with the family. And the grandfather was becoming somewhat of a nuisance. He would always get lost, couldn't find different things that were left for him. He was always bumping into people, and he would always forget where he was going or where he was coming from. So the wife got tired of this and went to her husband and said, you know, there's something you have to do with your grandfather. He's getting in the way, he trips, he falls, and he's becoming a nuisance. So the father said, I'll take care of it. So he went and got his son, 12-year-old boy, and he went to his son and said, I need you to do me a favor, and that is, I want you to take your grandfather far into the woods to where he can't find a place where he is comfortable, and make sure he can't find his way back to the village. And of course, a 12-year-old is wondering why that. I don't understand. But being the obedient son that he was, he did as his father asked. But his father gave him a blanket. He said, when you find the correct place for your grandfather, I want you to wrap this blanket around him and return to the village. On his way, every step was painful for him because he didn't understand. And you would hear the trees rustling back and forth. He would hear the birds singing. And then he came upon a beautiful place for his grandfather, where all the cedars are. He found a tree that had been chopped down. It was very smooth. He sat his grandfather down. The blanket that his father gave him, he tore it in half. And he wrapped his grandfather around his shoulders with the blanket, and then proceeded to return to the village. But on the way, there were many thoughts that ran through his mind, and he still didn't understand. He tried to grasp what was happening and why he had to do this. After a while, he returned to the village, and his father happened to see him. He walked over to his son and said, "Did you do what I asked?" And he said, "Yes, I did." And just then his father looked down and said, "You tore the blanket in half. Why did you do that?" And he said, "I put half of the blanket around grandfather. This half is for you when you die." So I'd like you to picture that walk with that 12-year-old boy. You can hear me okay, right? My flutes are cold, so when that's how they talk back to me when they say, hey, we're cold, but we'll teach you. We're not warming us up, and they'll give me a squeal every now and then. This is, I figured I'd pull up the big wigs here and kind of slow everything down. This is a bass B flute. It's very low pitched at 442 hertz, which is the frequency of love.